what if I told you the universe is basically a computer program, and physicists, well, they're the ones trying to hack it? We are about to dive into an idea so radical it completely reframes reality itself. So forget what you think you know about the world out there, because today we are the hackers.
And this quote, it just nails the whole idea. Seriously, imagine you stumble upon some amazing piece of software, but you don't have the source code. How do you figure out how it works? Well, you poke it. You try different inputs, watch the outputs, and you slowly build a mental model of the logic inside. That's exactly what physicists do, but their program is reality.
But see, that's the tricky part. Physicists can't just open a file and read the universe's code. We have absolutely no access to it. All we can do is run experiments. Those are our inputs, and observe what happens. Those are the outputs. From things like clicks on a detector or readings on a meter, we have to work backward to piece together the hidden rules of the game. And you know what? This is where it gets really fun. Because the more we poke and prod this cosmic program, the more we realize it behaves like it was written by some kind of trickster genius. It is full of bizarre features that just defy all common sense. So let's start thinking about all these strange laws of physics, not as these super complex theories, but as clues. Let's think of them as glitches or bugs in the code. And our job, as the reverse engineers, is to figure out why these glitches are even there.
I mean, just look at this list of bugs. Take time, for example. It's not constant. Your clock literally runs slower the faster you move. Or how about this one? The very act of looking at a tiny particle changes what it's doing, almost like it knows it's being watched. Oh, and two particles can be linked across the entire galaxy, affecting each other instantly. These aren't just little quirks, okay? They're fundamental clues that reality is not at all what it seems.
And for a really long time, we've gotten incredibly good at building these mathematical models, like quantum mechanics and relativity, that predict these glitches with just stunning accuracy. We know what happens, but we got so focused on describing the symptoms that we completely missed a much, much deeper question about the program itself.
Just let that sink in for a second. We always talk about the world out there as if it's a fact, a solid, fixed stage where things just happen, whether we're around to see them or not. But what if that's our biggest, most fundamental assumption? And what if it's just plain wrong?
And this brings us to the ultimate blind spot in our whole investigation into reality: ourselves, the observer. We've always known the observer as part of the equation, but we've been treating it like a constant, when it might just be the most important variable.
Okay, here's the core of the problem. We never ever see reality directly. Think about it. Every single piece of data we've ever collected, every measurement, every sight, every sound, is a subjective experience. It's all filtered through an observer. We have literally zero proof that anything is really there, independent of it being observed.
So here comes the radical leap. What if we just flip the entire model upside down? Instead of a solid, objective world that somehow creates observers, what if the universe is actually built from the ground up out of subjective experiences themselves?
So, let's explore this new model of the cosmos. It's one where the observer isn't just a passive spectator watching the show, but is a fundamental building block of the entire structure.
This comparison says it all. The old way of thinking is, okay, there's a world out there and we just measure it. But this new model, it says no, subjective experiences are the fundamental stuff of reality. So what we call objectivity, that's just what happens when everyone's story has to be consistent with everyone else's. And physics becomes the grammar that governs that shared story. Now, to be super clear, this isn't some anything goes, make up your own reality kind of deal. It's actually the complete opposite. It's a universe held together by one ironclad rule. All perspectives must be consistent with all other perspectives. The solid, stable world we all experience is the direct result of this incredibly strict demand for agreement.
So, what's the big payoff for thinking this way? Well, suddenly, all those weird glitches we found, they stop looking like bugs, they start looking like necessary features of a system built on observer consistency. All right, let's go back to our bug list. First up, in a universe with some solid, objective background, you'd think there would be some special, at-rest point of view, right? But there isn't one. So why not? The answer becomes almost obvious. If reality is built from perspectives, then of course there's no special one. Having a preferred frame of reference would mean there's a privileged observer, but the system just doesn't allow that. Every viewpoint is just as fundamental as any other. The bug is a feature.
Okay, let's tackle the big one from quantum mechanics. Why does the simple act of looking at a particle fundamentally change its properties? I mean, that seems to totally violate the idea of a pre-existing reality.
Well, in this new model, measurement isn't you passively looking at something. It's the very process of two observers, let's say you and an electron, interacting and forcing your subjective experiences to line up, to become consistent. You're not changing something that was already there. You are actively participating in defining a shared reality.
And what about Einstein's famous discovery that time is relative? Why on earth would a clock in motion tick slower than a clock that's standing still?
The answer is so elegant. If every observer is fundamental, then it makes sense that every observer has their own internal clock. The laws of relativity, then, aren't some bizarre property of space-time itself. They're the translation rules. They're what you need to make sure the experiences of two observers, moving at different speeds, can remain consistent with one another. And look, this isn't just some neat philosophical idea. When physicists actually do the math based on this observer-first idea, they start deriving our known laws of physics from the ground up. Instead of just plugging in the fact that particles have certain masses, the model predicts them. It suggests that gravity isn't even a fundamental force, but something that emerges from something else. This framework has some serious predictive power.
So that old intuitive picture we all have in our heads, a 3D world full of little objects that are just there existing completely independent of us? It turns out that might just be a placeholder, a simplified user interface that works really well for our day-to-day lives. But the real operating system of the universe is much, much deeper, and it seems to start not with objects, but with us, the observers.
Which leaves us with this final, truly mind-bending question. We've always thought of reality as the stage on which our lives play out. But what if reality isn't the stage at all? What if it's the story that emerges when we all agree on the script?